to A Rare Reality, a podcast powered by Jordan's Guardian Angels. I'm Christina Janes, Director of Content and Outreach for Jordan's Guardian Angels. And this is a fun day, Carole. Carole Bakhos is with us, who's our Executive Director. And our families are always asking for updates about the research into Jordan syndrome. And so this month is dedicated to research. We're going to be really diving deep into where we are, what we're doing, and getting down to the nitty gritty. So today is an update for our families specifically, but for the rare disease world, you can get caught up on Jordan syndrome and where we are. So I'm excited to talk through all this with you, Carole.
Yeah, it's exciting times. And, in just such a short 5-year span to go from not knowing anything, starting off, and to being where we are today, we're excited to be sharing all that progress.
Yeah, it's really amazing how fast this research has come along, and the progress that's being made and the dedication by this team to see it through. It's pretty incredible. In a couple minutes, you're going to hear from Dr. Wendy Chung, who is our lead investigator in all of this, and she'll be talking through where we are. But first, before we get to Wendy, Carole, I kind of want to touch on the high level research path, what we're doing currently. Where are we?
So some of you heard this before, right? That we're kind of going through two paths forward. One is a path to treatment, which is a pill that our children or adults with Jordan syndrome can take, and it takes away the mutation, or a path through genetic intervention. For the purpose of this podcast, we're gonna focus on the treatment path because we believe that's the closest, we're the closest to clinical trials there, and it's the fastest way forward. So for everything we're gonna say today, it's really focused on the treatment path, again, which means a drug that our children take to take away the impact of the mutation. Mm-hmm. So if you look at what we're doing, really, you have your basic science piece, which is really understanding the gene, the symptom, what does it mean at a micro level, macro level, understanding the biology. And we're doing that for all our genes, the 2R5D, 2R1A, and 2R5C. And usually, a lot of time, one output of that is the publication. So we have a publication on 2R5D, another one on 2R1A, and the 2R5C publication is in process. So that's really collecting data, looking at the biology side, looking at the symptoms at the family side, and kind of publishing this information to the world so everyone knows about it. And the basic science continues. And I think we're at a point where we're appreciating complexity of that science and what it takes to try to really understand the ins and outs of it. We do have some main questions that we just haven't been able to solve yet. They're just difficult questions to solve. But in the meantime, while that work is continuing and trying to understand it better and find the right outputs and the right targets, we're also taking shots at goal. So we know enough, we've learned enough in that work that has been done in the last 5 years to tell us, well, this is the potential treatments that could work based on what we know today. So we take these treatments and we test them in the cell level, we test them in the mice level, and if we have any winning candidates, that's the ones that would go to the human level or human clinical trials. Yeah. And for 2R5D, we're actually there today. Mm-hmm. Like, we have identified one treatment that was designed for another condition that we believe it showed great results in the mice. So we're going to test them on our children. And right now we've identified another treatment that's being tested in the mice to also see if that's going to be another output that it's going to go to human clinical trials. So in the first round, we're thinking we would have like a cocktail of drugs that our kids will take. Drug 1 will take care of 5 of the symptoms, drug 2 will take care of 3 more. So they're not like a fix for the condition, by really managing the symptoms and taking away some of the effect from that.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible to hear that that's even a possibility. So to be here now, I mean, this is what we've been waiting for, to be in this position, and it's very exciting. It's very exciting to see the outcomes.
Yeah, and a lot of it is because of the collaboration that JGA has been able to pull together, and the willingness of our research team to really work together and collaborate. And we're not following the traditional way of doing research where you work for years, you publish, and then someone else learns about it. They're sharing in real time. So that's really what we want to model research after going forward, being able to go from zero to having potential treatment in such a short period of time is really the way to go for rare diseases.
Yeah, I mean, it's the path forward for so many groups across this rare disease space. It's working for us. It may work for so many others too. I want to touch on the publications. You briefly touched on it now. This is exciting because it brings so much validity to the research that's being done.
Yeah, a lot of time we would go and work on our awareness efforts with the medical community, etc. But it's different for them when we come out with a publication versus a document that we had created as a
Right.
foundation. So we're excited to have that. And last year, the 2R1A publication was out, the 2R5D publication was out. But we also recently this year, we published the standard of care for PPP2R5D. And that actually surfaced another layer for our community, because the medical community pushed back on using Jordan syndrome as an umbrella term for all our genes, because they want to distinguish. Because even though there's a lot of similarities, they wanted the ability to distinguish between each of the genes as a separate condition.
Mhm.
So as a result from that publication, and with help with Dr. Wendy Chung, who's actually one of the authors on that, with our own Lexi Levine, which is our sibling coordinator, we reached a new naming convention for the genes. So the umbrella term is PPP2 related conditions. And then under that, you would have PPP2R5D, which
Mhm.
is now known as Jordan syndrome, 2R1A, and 2R5C. So as a community, we had been using Jordan syndrome as the umbrella term, but the medical community has advised us against that. So now, while we are still sister genes, the Jordan syndrome term, you're going to start hearing it more for 2R5D, and then you have 2R1A and 2R5C. But please keep in mind that doesn't change the mission of the foundation or how research is happening. And each of these genes are going through their own cycle at a different time. But the goal is to get everyone to that same point where we have potential treatments and we're doing clinical trials.
Yeah. So something to stress there. Yes, names may be different. You may be hearing this in a different way, but nothing has changed about the foundational research for everyone who's involved.
Absolutely. And the mission itself, of the nonprofit, it says it's leading research into these three genes.
Right.
And we intend to continue the same way.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the phases really quick. And I promise you're going to get to Wendy Chung in just a minute, but these are such important points to make on, where we are and the phases for each individual group here.
Yeah, so for 2R5D, we're approaching human clinical trials with one potential treatment, while the basic science continues, and while shots at goal continue at identifying additional treatment. For 2R1A, we have, the basic science continues. We have mice models that is there. So we're working on identifying treatments that would work on the mice that can potentially lead to human clinical trials. For 2R5C, we actually funded this year to create 2R5C mice, so we can get them to that same stage. So they're each offset, and the goal is to learn from each to help the next gene. But also the community started with 2R5D, and then we added 2R1A, and then added 2R5C, and the genes were discovered a little later too. So as a result, the research and where we're at with the research kind of reflects that timeline.
Yeah, there's some succession there and going through. Okay. Well, now that you're up to speed on all of these fun things, everybody, we want to get you to Dr. Wendy Chung. Take a listen to what she has to say about where we are in the research right now.
Hello, everyone. I hope you've been having a good summer. We wanted to give you a brief update on what's been going on with the work, the scientific work through Jordan's Guardian Angels and the group of scientists that are working behind the scenes to be able to help you and your families. The first is that there's been quite a bit of work going on scientifically on the basic science side, better understanding of the protein structure for the particular gene, the phosphatase that is the underlying condition cause of Jordan syndrome. That phosphatase, we're better understanding what are the targets for the phosphatase, that is, what are the molecules that it's targeting and how that affects the brain development and brain function. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, looking towards treatment. We've been working with the mouse models to try different treatments with the models that are very good models for the human condition. Those animals, those mice in particular, were able to use and try different medications and to see if they're working to improve behavior as well as brain function. And the most exciting part is that we are moving forward with clinical trial readiness to, I hope, launch a clinical trial in early 2024. In that particular case, it's a medicine, an oral medication that we've tried in the mouse models, and the preliminary data look good in terms of both safety as well as having a positive impact. The medication has also been previously used in people, in particular in people with a condition called Fragile X, which is associated with intellectual disabilities. That in that trial, that medication was safe. And so that's something that is important to me in terms of thinking about using it going forward. And again, we're planning to try and launch a clinical trial in early 2024. With that, we appreciate many of you as families who have volunteered to help us see whether or not the methods we're going to use, the particular outcome measures we call them, are going to be something that we can put into the trial and be able to, for our young people to be able to complete. These outcome measures are different tasks or tests to see whether the medication is having an effect. And we want to make sure they're not too long or too complicated or too burdensome, so that we can really see how the people with Jordan syndrome are doing. Within this clinical trial, we're likely to have, it's likely to be in the United States and to have 2 or 3 sites in the United States where people can go. And with this, it is all told going to be about a year long within this whole phase. Within this, we expect to open this up to individuals 9 years old and older. And with this, in the first phase, there will be some individuals that will get placebo or so-called sugar pill, but twice as many people would be getting the intervention, the drug. And at the end of the what we call blinded part, where we don't know what anyone's on, everyone would get on the medication. So everyone would have the opportunity to see if the medication is working and would help them. So stay tuned, but I wanted to give everyone an update, and as we have more specificity about exactly the clinical trial sites where we'll be doing this, as well as when we'll be starting, we'll keep you posted. In the meantime, just a personal update. I've moved to Boston Children's Hospital. So I'm looking forward to seeing many of you in Boston, either for a clinical visit, a clinical trial visit, or hopefully for the summer family meeting in 2024.
So that was Dr. Wendy Chung. Many of you know her. If you have not had the chance to meet her, I'm hoping that many of you will too, because she's an incredibly brilliant mind there, and announcing her new position there at Boston Children's Hospital. So we're very proud of her, very grateful for all the work that she does for us. She's a tremendous powerhouse, Carole. I mean, the work that's being done is just amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, we were at first a little anxious when we heard that she's moving to Boston Children's, but we believe that's going to be actually a good thing for our community, because she has access to more resources and better facilities. I mean, it's one of the top hospitals in the US. So we're really excited to have her there and have our clinical trials led through that. And, you know, there's a strong team behind her. So we're excited, and very well deserved, her new position, and we're excited that we get to benefit from all her success.
Yeah, it's
So we're
going to be amazing. She did touch on our international families there. So we just want to make sure we clarify a few things that she touched on.
Yeah, so you heard Dr. Chung talk about the clinical trials being US based, and that's where we're starting. So what we're talking about is individuals with PPP2R5D, Jordan syndrome, 9 and older, living in the US, with English being their primary language, even if they're nonverbal, would be eligible, if they would like to participate, would be eligible to take part of the clinical trial. And we're looking to do multiple sites, one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast, and perhaps one more. So families can have a site that is closest to them to go and visit, because throughout the 1 year period that Dr. Chung talks about, they're gonna need to do at least 3 visits to the site to monitor how improvement, any changes, anything like that. Our international families are always asking, what does that mean for us? But the goal here is, through this 1 year clinical trial, we'll have all the data we need to apply to get FDA approved, which is the agency within the US. And actually, the FDA has one of the most stringent approval requirements. So if you pass the FDA approval, we can use the same information. We don't have to go through another clinical trial or anything like that. We take that same information and we present it to other agencies, say like the European agency or anywhere else, and we work with them to get it approved in these other agencies. But having the FDA approval is like the step number 1, because that opens the door for us to go around and get it approved. It becomes just a logistical process at that point. Other things to touch base on, I mean, a lot of what we're doing today is collecting this baseline data. So all the data that the families are providing through Simon Searchlight, or data we're going to be collecting at our upcoming conference, and we collected previously in our last year's conference. All this data acts as a baseline, because it really tells them this is what Jordan syndrome looks like today. And then once we have treatments, we have all of that available, we can look at that baseline again and look at, oh, look, is it improving mobility? Is it improving speech? What is it improving?
Sure.
So the first treatment we're going after has indicated that it improved cognition in the mice, because that's one of the questions our families are always, what are we targeting with this clinical trials? So this particular drug has improved cognition in the mice. They were able to solve puzzles that were not able to solve before. How will that translate in our children? We're not sure. What happens when we improve cognition in our children? Is their speech going to get better? Is their hypotonia going to get better? We're really not sure. So that's why we need to collect all that before they apply the treatment, and really look at what does that make the impact on the children and adults living with the syndrome.
Yeah. And it's so important. I mean, when we ask you to please sign up with Simon Searchlight and give your information, finish your surveys, update them on a regular basis to make sure you're not missing anything, it does take some time. It is not long, but it does take some time. But it is imperative that this community comes together and truly signs up. It's not just a request. It's a necessity at this point. We need this to move forward. So please don't hesitate to do it. Get it done. If you haven't done it yet, sign up. It's easy. They have questions. If there's any questions that you have, reach out. We can help.
Yeah, and that data cannot come from anywhere else.
Right.
So if we don't provide that data, they can't go find it anywhere else. It's either coming through our community or it doesn't exist. So, we're pleading with all our families to please take effort to support our team and Dr. Chung and everything that is needed, because the end of that is a treatment for our children. So the effort is necessary, and it's definitely worth it.
And be a part of it. I mean, I think at this point, you're seeing that this is happening. You're seeing that it's truly, the benefit will be so great for people in our community. So please understand that. And that, we really do want you to be noticed. We want you to be included. We need that data from you so that we're not missing anything. So please take a minute and do it. Anything else yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to add that this is the kind of data you can provide from the comfort of your home.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you're internationally, you're anywhere, don't stress that, oh, I can't, travel to the US to provide this. This is data is just survey based. You can provide where you're at. And also, if you didn't participate with a natural history study or anything like that, that doesn't exclude you from participating in the clinical trial. So you don't have to participate in the clinical trials in order to access the treatment once it's approved. So there's a lot of layers here. We don't have an upper limit on age. We don't know if there's a certain age after which the impact is less or not existing. But in terms of the clinical trials, we have a lower limit. It's 9 and older, but we don't have an upper limit. So for all our older kiddos in the community, if they're in the US and they want to participate, that's an option for them regardless of their age.
Yeah. Lots of good information today, Carole. I think it's great. And I hope that our families take away a lot from this. We're going to be doing more podcasts about the research moving forward this month. So stay tuned for those. Is there anything else that we missed today that you wanted to touch on?
The last thing I want to say that we actually recently had a meeting with our ambassadors around the world, and they're up to date on what's happening. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to them or to me directly. Happy to answer. But your ambassadors, are aware and they're informed. And if they have doubt, they come back to us and we support them as well. So use our team or your ambassadors, contact Joe directly if you want to hear from him and his input on that. So wherever you want to get your information, we're hoping to have enough people that are aware and informed that can support you with any questions that you have.
We're here for you if you need anything at all. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Carole, thank you. And thank you to Wendy. Wendy, if you're listening, we appreciate you and this entire research team so much. So thank you. Thank you. Stay tuned for more podcasts too. If you have not listened to our other episodes, want to get caught up, you can find us on our website, jordansguardianangels.org, on YouTube with translation services, or anywhere that you get your podcasts. Just look for A Rare Reality. So thanks for tuning in today, you guys. Carole, thank you as always for being here. We all always learn a lot. So more to come in the weeks ahead. Thanks, everybody.